Welcome back. A court has now ruled that the Energy Minister, Gwede Mantashe, must make public the documents that led to his decision to include new coal-fired power stations in the 2019 Integrated Resource Plan. The plan basically is government policy for energy in the future. It explains where energy is supposed to come from. A group of NGOs claim we won't need new coal-fired power stations because renewable power is much cheaper and quicker to procure, and that the rest of the world won't finance coal-fired power plants. Nicole is the head of pollution and climate change, the program at the Centre for Environmental Rights. Nicole, good afternoon to you. Why did you want these documents?
Good afternoon, Stephen. So, Centre for Environmental Rights act as attorneys for three applicant organisations, the African Climate Alliance, Bokani Environmental Justice Alliance and Groundwork. These three organisations have launched essentially a youth-led case against the Minister and NERSA to challenge government's plans for new coal-fired power. In order to progress this litigation, the government is obliged to make available all the records that were before it when it made the decision that is being challenged. The Minister has had objected to making these records available, arguing that our clients were not entitled to them. So we had no option but to bring an application to court to compel the Minister to make these records available. The records that we want are essentially crucial modelling information, cost assumptions, information that essentially would shed a lot of light on why the Minister made the decision that was made to essentially call for new coal-fired power into the future, when we know that much of the modelling today says, in fact, the opposite. In fact, even government's own records say the opposite, that we don't need coal-fired power. That is, in fact, much more expensive than alternative electricity supply options.
So you believe the decision, the sort of way that this would be put in court is, you believe the decision to procure more coal-fired power stations would be legally irrational. You believe these documents are evidence of that?
Yes, well, it may also be that there aren't any documents at all, that the Minister didn't consider any documents, and that's also perfectly feasible. But the point is, the Minister hasn't given us anything, hasn't said what he considered, what he didn't consider, and that's really crucial in order to be able to progress this case. And yes, we are challenging it on the basis of irrationality, but also on the basis of it's a constitutional challenge, essentially. Our clients argue that this decision poses unjustifiable threats to their constitutional rights.
Okay.
Remember, a number of them are members of the youth. So they're bringing this very much a youth climate focus. I'm happy to.
Sorry, Nicole. Just so to oversimplify your argument, you believe we don't need new coal?
Yes, and it's not just our clients. I mean, it's fairly well established, and I'm happy to put out the numbers for you. Not only from. Okay.
Sure. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. Here's where I'm getting to. Okay. Now we can argue. Other countries are buying our coal. In fact, they're buying more of our coal than they've ever bought before for their own coal-fired power plants. Britain is starting a coal mine for a coal-fired power plant. I mean, brand new from scratch, out of the box, shiny and new. If other countries are doing it, why shouldn't we?
Well, I mean, one could look at it purely from a harms and rights infringement perspective. Certainly, coal-fired power poses significant risks to human health from air pollution and, more importantly, climate change. Everyone, including major heads of other countries, have made it clear that any decisions to develop new coal-fired power would take us way beyond what is essentially required to have a safe climate. And the evidence is fully there. So from that perspective alone, there's sufficient argument to be made that building new coal poses very, very high risks, not only to the people of South Africa, but also globally. And then there's a cost argument to be made. I mean, all modelling shows that building new coal power now, with far more affordable electricity supply alternatives, simply doesn't make financial sense. In fact, this particular case was supported by modelling done by the Energy Systems Research Group at UCT, and they found that if government proceeds with these plans for 1,500 megawatts of new coal, it will cost the country an additional 23 billion rand compared to an electricity system without it. What's also really interesting is that if South Africa intends to meet its climate commitments which we have made, and still build this coal, we're then looking at additional costs to the people of South Africa of about 79 to 109 billion. This is based purely on economic modelling here.
I accept the argument, Nicole. What I'm trying to get to is, if what we're doing is so wrong, why are so many other countries doing it?
I wouldn't say that so many other countries are doing it. And I mean, look, I can't speak to every single other country, but certainly, there's very much big discussion around this transition away from coal, away from fossil fuels. In fact, financiers are actually, I mean, you may have heard about all these discussions around, money being put into countries to decarbonize. So certainly investing in new fossil fuels at this stage certainly sets a very bad, problematic long-term tone for any investment in this country. And, as carbon taxes become stricter and border adjustment mechanisms, essentially, if South Africa's carbon footprint is going to become any higher, we are going to have significant problems. And again, there are so many arguments to be made again around a safe climate and health. And that's really what our clients are arguing about. It doesn't really matter what other countries are doing. The evidence is there. This is a significantly harmful decision when there are less harmful alternatives available. Based on that argument alone, it's simply not justifiable.
Nicole, thank you, Head of the Pollution and Climate Change Program at the Centre for Environmental Rights. Well.